Greetings, Nomad Theatricals from Baltimore, Maryland, where I'm currently working at Baltimore Center Stage playing Creon in Sophocles' 2,500-year-old play, Antigone. This is Nomad Theatrical's second how-to segment. I did one a few years ago on how to memorize lines or how to approach memorizing lines, and I hope that has been some use to some people. And this one is about how to approach dialect or accents for the purposes of acting or just having fun with it. It's one of my favorite things about being an actor is transforming physically and vocally. And a great theatrical practitioner, a man named Joseph Chaikin, his working definition of acting is a demonstration of self with or without a mask. So a mask can be a literal thing that we hold in front of our face, or it can be just a fabulous makeup and a wig, or it can just be like a physical transformation, so that if I all of a sudden give myself an overbite and I stick my neck out like this and I begin speaking with this sort of dialect, this could be considered a mask. And although I'm using this mask, and I might start saying some text like, now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York. It is still me inside here. So Mr. Chaikin, by his definition, it's still myself, a demonstration of myself, in this particular case, with a mask or without a mask. So how to approach mastering a dialect or attempting to master a dialect. One of the things that I do is find the placement in my oral cavity. A lot of people approach dialect by simply pronunciation replacements. But I have, for many years, used this wonderful dialect coach, David Alan Stern's approach, where he identifies a placement in the oral cavity. Is the sound actually being produced here, outside of your mouth, or is it in the middle of your mouth, or in the back, or in your nasal passages? And that has really helped me. That's really worked for me. And then, in conjunction with specific vowel and consonant substitutions. Also, by immersing myself and training my ear. So, in addition to David Alan Stern, another great resource is the International Dialects of English Archive, IDEA, I-D-E-A. And that's how you can find it online. It's a wonderful resource, and it has recordings of all of these people speaking English with native English dialects, or people whose second language is English, or third or fourth language is English, but they're not native English speakers. So you really get to hear them, and it has, and it records it lets you know all of the details of where they were born and how long they lived in an area, what age they were at the time of the recording, and all these things that ultimately can really, really help you. One thing that I do when I'm attempting to master a dialect is use it in my everyday life, So, I might start to speak like this all the time if I'm attempting to use a French dialect, and I will use it in my everyday life with my friends and loved ones, and I will read often aloud a lot. So I pick up any book or newspaper or magazine and read, attempting to use the dialect. But I don't use the dialect with my specific text, the text of the play or the film that I'm going to be doing with the dialect. I don't put those two things together until I feel really comfortable and sure about how the dialect is coming out of my face, out of my being. And I find this is very helpful because I don't want to put an unmastered dialect onto my text, because then I might habitualize pronunciation that isn't good or isn't accurate, and so that's why I don't do that. Because it's easy to habitualize how you're going to say text. And when I'm memorizing, I also just memorize by rote, which means without inflection or intonation, or at least I do my best to do that. So once I find this placement, and once I make specific vowel and consonant substitutions, I make sure that I have a touchstone speech that I always use, and if I can say that whole speech in what I feel is a confident and well mastered, not perfected, because perfection is very hard to come by and very elusive, but what I feel is a strong and easy use of the dialect on this speech, then I will apply it to my given text that I'm supposed to be using as my character. So this speech is the prologue speech from Romeo and Juliet, which goes, "Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge, etc., etc., etc." So that's the speech, and when I can get all the way through it with a particular dialect, this is when I will now apply the dialect to my text. So I thought, just for fun, at the end of this, which is right now, I will run us through that speech using various, as a little tour of the Western world, using various dialects in English. Another great thing to do, of course, is to go to a dialect coach. Especially after, I think, to find the placement. So early on is good to do that, and maybe at the end of working up a dialect, just to nail the finer points. And there are lots of great coaches out there. So here we go with two households. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured, piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end naught can remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage, the which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. Thanks for listening. Bye.